Hello. How are you? Hello, everybody. We are here and now we're live. So the first Thursday, it doesn't happen to be this Thursday, but the first Thursday of every month will be here. We are here in the Cincinnati Police Department, and I am Defilia Diaz, and I'm an immigration attorney.
Hello, I'm Anthony Johnson. I'm the Immigration Liaison Officer for the Cincinnati Police Department. We're here to basically share information about the U visa and all the things that are entailed, and maybe answer some questions that people may not know, and share information. And if you qualify, maybe you'll have a better understanding of the qualifications for the U visa and what it serves.
Perfect. Thank you very much, first of all, for opening the space, because this is a very common topic around the immigrant community. And the U visa, to start us off, let's remember what is a U visa and what was created for, right? Which is to motivate the victims of crime that happen to be immigrants, not only the Hispanic community, immigrants that have been victims of a crime here in the United States, to be able to cooperate with law enforcement, because we know that perpetrators of the crimes normally targets immigrants, and immigrants fear to contact law enforcement.
Absolutely. We as a police department here and across the nation understand that police in other countries are not similar to us. A lot of countries don't have local police that deal with, domestic issues and things of that nature. And so when you're going to another country, you're going to think or believe, that law enforcement is similar to where you come from. And we're really different. We want to be able to enforce crimes, protect our victims, and literally protect people that, so they don't become victims. And in order to be able to do that, this U visa is put in place to protect you, so that as a victim that we as law enforcement are not going to come after you or do anything to you, but protect you through the process of you being a victim and finding justice for you.
Exactly. The first thing that the immigrants, that my clients are afraid of, it is calling the police in the moment that after that happened, that crime. So normally, what do the police do after a victim calls for help?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about right there on the scene, obviously we respond. We try to make the scene safe. We try to get information from the victim to assist them in their time of crisis, which, that's what it is. When you're calling police and you're calling 911 and we're coming to help you, it is literally a life moment of crisis. So we're here to try to make the scene safe, help our victim, and then obtain the information necessary to be able to investigate the crime, be able to arrest the perpetrator, if you will, and find justice for our victim.
Perfect. So, language is a language and identification, ID, how to identify yourself. So first, let's talk about language. What do you guys do when you find a victim of a crime and that victim do not speak English or has a very, very broken English?
Absolutely. So in the city of Cincinnati and within our police department, we have a language line. So not just the police department, but the fire, if it's an emergency where it's a health issue or things like that, even other city services. We have language lines that can assist us in translating, if you will. We have officers that speak different languages as well, so we'll try to call somebody to the scene depending on if we cover that language. It may take a little longer with the translator, but we have that in use to be able to get all the information necessary and then be able to help our victim. Again, I know that because of the language barrier, there's a lot of concerns about what police are going to do and what they're not going to do. But with the translation service or with officers that do speak different languages, we're able to assist the victim, assure them that this is what we're here to do, and even help them. I mean, even beyond the scene, we have investigators that use language lines to be able to talk to our victims. So then we get all the information necessary to complete our job, which is, again, scene safety, investigate the crime, and then all the way to adjudication, court, and everything else.
Perfect. And when you arrive to a crime scene, are you able to assess with your training and body language and whatever is happening at the moment that you arrived, probably who is the victim? I imagine if they have blood or they are crying, or you can see a mark in their bodies.
Sure. If there's injuries and things of that nature that indicate, our victims, then yes, through our training, through what we've gone through extensively, through experience. I've been on more than 24 years. So we've seen a lot of things that would be able to give us clues and indicators that we have victims. Again, the resources, whether it be language lines or officers that speak other languages, things like that, assist us in being able to obtain more information to understand exactly what we're looking for, what we're dealing with, what crime we're dealing with, let alone, identifying a suspect, location where it occurred, things of that nature. I mean, we're well equipped to be able to help our victims in those needs.
I'm asking because so the viewers also know that you are not only relying on the language. If you don't have it right away in that moment, if you're waiting for a translator, interpreter, or so forth, you are also trained, and you also are cueing what is happening, and if they can also pinpoint, or they can draw, or they can show you what is happening with their hands.
Yeah, well, not just that. So we have what we call suspect identification cards, where literally without saying words, we can show our victim and they can point to whether it been number of people, what color shirt they were wearing, what happened to them, whether they were hit, they were stabbed, maybe somebody had a gun. They can point to the page and actually literally say, this is what happened to me without saying words, which gives us a quick 30-second to 2-minute situation to find out immediately what's happening. And then once we make the scene safe, use the translator and take more time to get what we need.
That's amazing, because every single time, every single second, I guess that it counts.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, most of your crimes literally happen within maybe 6 to 8 seconds, and then everything else is the aftermath of that crime.
Correct. So you are in charge of receiving the U visa certifications. What about it? We talk about the certifications.
Yes, absolutely. So the U visa certification and T visa certifications are protecting victims of certain crimes. So it's important that if first of all, if you're a victim of any type of crime, that you report it. And I know there's challenges on being fearful with police and things of that nature. If you're a victim of a crime, there are many ways to be able to make a report. I know sometimes it's intimidating to come to a police district. Sometimes it's intimidating for an officer to come to your residence or where you live because people are seeing you with the police and things of that nature. But there are many ways to be able to do that. I mean, there are even opportunities to report things online. So the most important thing is, if you're a victim of crime, report it. That way we can get assistance for you. Now, in those reports, if there are qualifying crimes, then this is where your protection comes into play. So if you're fearful because you're in between status, or you're undocumented right now, or things of that nature, this visa will protect you as a victim of crime, so you don't have to worry about anybody trying to do anything as far as getting rid of you or kicking you out of the country, or doing any other stuff as far as law enforcement. We're here to actually serve and protect the victim in their time of crisis, and this assists our victims if they have qualifying crimes.
Correct. And the certification is a vital piece for Immigration UCIS, which is the agency that it will adjudicate the U visas, for them to know that you were a victim of the crime and you cooperated with law enforcement. And it is a document that it was signed by the government, where law enforcement have to sign, and we have to send the original one within 6 months. And in that way, immigration will just compare the police report, the names, what were the factual situation of the police report, what is the certification. So, and we collaborate many times on the certifications.
Absolutely.
And there, as you mentioned, that there is a list of crimes, not anything qualified for a U visa. So what are your most common crimes or requests that you get for U visas?
Usually robberies fall in those categories. Domestic violence falls in those categories. Anything dealing with like a felonious assault, things like that, where they're real serious physical harm to our victims. Those are the majority that come across, at least through our police department. Typically, we do somewhere around maybe about 80 or 90 a year. And those involve investigations on not only the investigator's part, but on my part when they come across, because we have to make sure that, first of all, it was an illegitimate crime, that the victim is actually assisting the police in solving this crime, and that through those two pieces, this is where we can certify that this is a U visa certification and it qualifies.
Yes. So let's go a little bit back. about specifying what is a crime.
Sure.
When I talk to my clients and I ask them in the consultation, I ask, have you ever been a victim of a crime? And they answer, I have never got in trouble.
Right.
And I say, well, that is not being a victim of a crime, because being a victim of a crime, it is that trouble found you. You know, you were in the wrong place, wrong time, and they found you. So can you give us a definition of what is to be a victim of a crime?
Right. So we have to remember where our people come from. So again, a lot of your law enforcement do not deal with domestic issues from other countries. I'm not saying all of them in total, but a number of them don't. So when you say, are you a victim of a crime? Well, and domestic issues don't really pop up as crimes for some people. So you're going to get that answer that you got. So it's important that we educate people and understand what the laws are here, so they understand that these things occur. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I had a young man in Price Hill who got beat up by some juveniles, and they took $400 off of him. Well, he didn't want to come to the police department because, first of all, they were kids, and he thought he was going to be the one causing the problem by reporting that this occurred. And no, you're a victim of a robbery. I mean, we happened to actually catch it on video, so it was seen. And so I'm like, hey, report this. We'll pull the camera up with everything else like that. And here, he is a victim of a crime, and is certified with a visa because of the robbery. And so it's not necessarily that, like, we're talking about victims, but even educating our victims on the laws to understand that they're victims is even more important, because this is a service that's out there for our victims. And as a police officer, I want to be able to go out there and enforce the law like I'm supposed to do, help and assist our victims when these times of crisis occur, because it helps not only the victim that we're dealing with, but the neighborhood. If these crimes go unsolved and these crimes continue to become more and more and more, then there's going to be more victims. There's going to be more people that fall to the prey of this because we're not investigating the offenses that are occurring. So that's why the UVs and the TVs are important, and the education of these things are vital, because our communities and in the city of Cincinnati, we have a number of them. If we're not investigating these, then we're not reducing the amount of victims. We're actually augmenting it because they're not being solved.
Yeah, let it crime to just spread. So I will say that if you feel being a victim of a crime, it is feeling that a wrongdoing was committed against you.
Absolutely.
Something unfair was committed against you, and the U visa requires that there is substantial physical or mental suffering but that's something that the immigration attorney should analyze, and immigration should determine. There is a question that in the certification, normally, if you don't have substantial physical injury, you cannot annotate it in the certification that the immigration attorney or the petitioner will just send it to immigration. That is not something that it can limit.
When you're a victim, and again, it doesn't. I know you said substantial, but I don't want people to think that you have to have a cracked head or something like that to say that that's substantial. Like in our gentleman that was robbed, he was beat up. He had some scuff marks on him, some scratches and some bruising, but it wasn't necessarily he had to go to the hospital. But because of the offense itself, the robbery itself, that's enough to qualify. So you don't necessarily have to. I mean, we've had people with broken bones. We had a gentleman that was shot through the leg one time. We assisted him with his certification. So I mean, yes, there are some times when people are seriously physically harmed, but you don't have to have those injuries for that to occur. It could be the situation could be the danger of those circumstances. It doesn't have to be like if for example, heaven forbid, somebody shoots at somebody and misses. Well, they didn't get hit, but the danger was there.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? That's more than qualifying for a U visa certification. So, but again, that's why the education is important, and understanding that the resource of this is out here for our victims to, again, not only have the protection and the confidence that the police department is going to assist you, but to receive justice and to take care of your neighborhood in the enforcement of those crimes. Because again, crime is pervasive. If you allow it to go, it's going to add, it's going to add, it's going to add until there's something that stops that or works to reduce it.
Yeah, and very good that you clarify that. Not because you were not heard or feel that you were not heard, that doesn't mean that you cannot report it or should not be reported. I'm just stating what the code says, but
sure.
but there's so many other ways to provide it to immigration that evidence. Because there is
Yes.
psychological reports that they can be included in there. Because after you're a victim of a crime, from my experience with my clients, some of them develop PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder,
Absolutely.
depression, anxiety. There is a sense of insecurity, after that being a victim of a crime. So that it can be provided to immigration, not to law enforcement, right?
Yeah, but also with us, if it's in the midst of the crime, anything that we would take as far as injuries, harm, things of that nature, if we can put it with our report and put it with that's evidence to what's occurred.
And there's assistance, that is cooperation, because it can goes to what happened in the crime.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about cooperation, because a lot of people will think that, okay, what is cooperation? Does that mean it's just calling? Does it mean that I have to go and chase the perpetrator? Does it mean that I have to go and, make sure that he's arrested? What does that mean?
So a good question, because it opens up a whole lot. So number one, it's not necessarily having to physically call. Some people, again, like I said, there's all kinds of ways to contact us or to get the assistance. So it may be that you just come to the district. So it's not a physical phone call. You come to get assistance from the district. Or in some cases, I've been stopped on the street driving my police car. You know what I'm saying?
Like, hello.
Exactly. So if it's that, that's assistance. But what we're looking for and what we want is the beyond even that point. So like if we need more information, that you're there and you're available for us to try to solve this case. If maybe we need some identification, or maybe we find some evidence down the road, or maybe a video that we want you to see that might say, hey, maybe this was the person, because we may not have a video of the situation, but maybe before it occurred. And maybe be able to identify people that way. So anything that's going to be, for our victim to be available to us, to be able to provide more information to solve the case is what we're looking for. The U visa is not mandated on a conviction. So that's important also to understand.
Explain more. What is a conviction?
Yes. So obviously, if there's a crime, we charge somebody, we get a suspect. We go to court. It's tried in court. Well, we can't control juries. We can't control judges. We can't destroy defenses and all these things like that. So, and we're not here to do that. In this case, this U visa and T visa is here specifically to assist the victim in us enforcing the law and hopefully getting somebody arrested and fighting the crime that occurred and getting, victim services. So, in this point, all we can do is lead it up as much as we can to that point, and then the chips will fall where they are. So what we're looking for, and going back to it, is just the assistance through the process of trying to solve the crime, not the conviction. Sometimes you can have one person convicted and 3 others not. We can't control that. It's how it works. So, but it's important to understand that we're not here looking for convictions. We're not looking here that the person gets a certain amount of time and it's okay. We don't care about that. We want, from our point of view, and why this is put in place, is to assist the victim through the time that they become a victim, through the process all the way up to trying to solve it the best way we possibly can. Yeah, there are a number of cases that, for lack of either video or lack of witnesses and things like that don't get solved. But down the road they get solved because those same suspects went and maybe robbed somebody else, and then it ties them to those crimes. Like if I stole your purse and you didn't catch me, 3 days later I might have stuff from you on me and I go steal from somebody else and get caught. Now I get tied to you being a victim. And so that's why it's important to report it, to be there for assistance, because that might be the case where we need assistance. Hey, is this your stuff? There it is. And it can be as simple as that. Yes, this is my stuff. So now we charge them with receiving stolen property because your stuff was stolen and this suspect has it. So it's not necessarily all the way to court and conviction. It's just that you're there to assist us, because we don't stop investigating crimes. It's not like, okay, we didn't find nobody, closed. It doesn't work that way, right? So most of your crimes, especially in the felony area, take a period of time to solve. Take a lot of legwork, background investigation, film, canvassing, as far as talking to people that might have been in the area that might have seen it but didn't want to call the police. All of those things are important, what do you want to call it, aspects, of solving these crimes. But again, it all falls back to the victim, when they become a victim, reporting it. So then we put everything forward as far as, like I said, victim assistance, trying to solve the crime, looking for all the information and evidence that we need through that process. And again, it's important to understand that this protects, all of our immigrants that are maybe undocumented or like in situations that are in between process. It just makes them feel more confident in being able to come to us knowing that we're not worried about that. We're worried about taking care of the victim.
Yes, exactly. So, do you have a case in mind where you say, well, just because of the U visa, I was able to have a better rapport, a better connection with the victim, and because of the U visa,
we
got a lot of information.
I mean, yeah, probably there's about 100 of them flooding in my head already. The biggest thing is being able to build that relationship in our community, knowing that this thing is in place. So for every person that we actually help, and again, if you understand, first of all, the city of Cincinnati, period, whether you're an immigrant or not, a lot of word of mouth is very powerful here. I can't tell you about other cities, but I can tell you here, if somebody speaks positively about you, it means something. In our communities, more and more people are understanding that, hey, officers are here to help you. They're not here to harm you. They're here to solve your problems and issues, especially if you're victims of crime. And our services are here to be able to do that. And it's paramount to us to do that because it matters for us. And so you look at, for example, I just happened, and I think we talked about this before, a young man, I mentioned it, he was shot through the leg, and I happened to be helping on a passport drive at Roberts Academy. And so he's talking to me like, yeah, I got shot in the leg a year ago. And I'm like, okay, you made a report? Yeah, I made a report, and I gave the information, but, and that was it. I'm like, well, did you even apply for a U visa? Did you? No, what's that?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, well, yes, you need to do this because, I mean, clearly you got shot. Clearly we have evidence of this. He did make a report. We got him assistance. And then we got the investigators on the case to be able to work and solve the crime. And it ended up leading into a group of kids that was actually committing numerous crimes in the neighborhood. And again, him doing that, him understanding that, hey, we have protections for you. You don't have to worry about us. It led to 2 other people coming forward. And then those 2 people said, hey, and we ended up having 11 victims. And again, reports and everything.
That they were not reported?
That were not reported. And that's because they were fearful of us. Which then led to a town hall kind of meeting at Holy Family Church, where we had over 400 something people in there to find out what this thing is and what we're here to do and how to protect them and the services that are here available. And bringing a whole bunch of other stakeholders in that offered all kinds of services to the community, which again this is what this is about. When you're in communities and you're in policing and things like that, this is a people service. We're here to serve, help, assist in everyday living and the quality of life of that living. And so the thing about these little stories and each person's history as far as being a victim and things like that is that with them understanding that we're all here to assist each other, and it's not a negative thing and it's not a fearful thing that you have to be about police. It makes our community stronger to understand that the system is in place to help everybody across the board, not just some people, and that's despite language barriers and other challenges that are here and every day. We're on social media right now and think about how social media gives messages, good and bad and all over the place. Well, here you have tangible people that have gone through this process and they have been helped. There have been crimes that are solved and there have been justice that has been, obtained for them because of this important, document that the government gave us to utilize to solve these crimes.
Of course. And from this side, I can tell you that there is people that are benefiting from the U visa. So it is a team effort for you to actually speak for yourself and for the community and report the crimes. Then for the police to assist attorneys and victims trying to get the certification, which is the signature, and later on filing your case. The U visa takes a long time to be adjudicated. Sadly, there is a lot of lobbying that has to be done there, and the plug is in there because we need more than 10,000 visas per year. I think that back in the day when it was enacted, it was thought that they could not be more than 10,000 per year.
Exactly.
And it turns to be that it is way more than 10,000 per year. However, I wanted to say that right now, since 2021, June 2021, UCIS has been issuing work authorizations for pending U visas. So it is a way also for immigrants that do not have a status or have a case with immigration court to also stay here with designation, which is a deferred action. It's not an immigration status, but it's a designation that if you are here without causing any trouble, you can just keep on going in that designation, which is the first status, with your work authorization document that will lead us to have the social security number, that will lead us to have a driver license here in the state of Ohio, which you are going to be as any other person and free of living, free of working, whatever you want, until you get the approval of the U visa. And it is also very good because I have to mention that the U visa will waive the major violations of the immigration law. If you get caught in the border and that caught in the border and the arrest led to a removal, that is one of the biggest violations in the immigration law, but that the U visa will waive that. So it has many waivers, criminal convictions, or many other violations, civil violations in the immigration law that any other visa or any other application can have. So it is very fruitful and it is very beneficial for everybody to report crimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, this is what we're in the business of doing is improving the quality of life through enforcement, through protections and things like that. And if the crime is not reported, we don't know.
Yes.
And we cannot serve our community or assist in these type of matters if we never know.
Yes. So I'm super grateful for you and with the Cincinnati Police Department because we have been able to actually report crimes after that happened because they have come to the office, and when in my consultation intake I ask and they say yes, and did you report it? No. And I'm like, Tony, we have something here. And I remember a collaboration where it was a woman that it was robbed in a park.
Yes.
And she was very fearful.
Yeah.
So you came to the office and we were able to do the report. And my plug here for my colleagues is also to build trust and connection with the local agencies around you, because that have helped us tremendously. And you build trust and cooperation also.
Absolutely.
And so there is ways, right? There is ways for you to report any crime that happened after the fact.
Yeah. Again, we completely understand that there is a fear of police contact, connectivity, and things like that, especially, all you have to do is look at the news today and look at different countries and see what police officers in other countries are doing to the community members that are living there right now. So that is understood. So if there's a way and means to make our victim comfortable, to be able to report these crimes, again, we want to report it because without that, we don't have the knowledge that these are going. We can't enforce it. We can't target hardened areas to make sure that there are not more victims. I mean, it puts us at a disadvantage without the reports being made, as far as law enforcement is concerned, because it's vital for us to be able to know what's happening in our city and where it's happening. But at the same time, we understand completely that, you're a person of where you come from and your understanding, and going to a new place or being in a new place is going to create challenges. It's going to create some type of walls and things like that and barriers where you don't necessarily feel comfortable crossing, or you don't know what you're going to put yourself in those situations. And so coming to your office to assist a victim, or like I said, reporting online, or being able to come to a district, or like in some cases I will go to restaurants because it's a neutral place and it's comfortable, you know, to be able to get information. And if it's a reportable offense, make the report. You know, I mean, we'll go to churches. I mean, I've been to Holy Family quite a few times. I've been to some of the number of schools here. I mean, whatever it takes to assist our victims, again, in their time of crisis, because literally that's what it is for them. You know, and it may not be the same crisis, you know, size-wise as somebody else, but at the end of the day, if you're having to call us, we understand that it is a time of crisis.
That is perfect. So what about if we go through the list of the crimes? You mentioned robbery and domestic violence the most.
Yeah, those are the most that I see come across my desk as far as the applications are concerned. But some of them, I've already mentioned felonious assault, and that's, you know, serious physical harm or attempt of a serious physical harm to somebody.
I think that you have to explain a little bit more, because felonious assault, I think that it can be confusing. Assault, also, when you translate it into Spanish, it means robbery. Assault.
Yes.
So it is physical harm, correct?
Yes, but it's serious physical harm. So and again, there's a lot of gray area to that, because I mean, even as police officers, we may come on a scene where somebody's hurt, but the amount of injuries are not going to really be known to us, if that makes sense. So, like, for example, I mean, I can complain about my wrist hurting, but if I go to the hospital afterwards and it's actually broke, that's serious physical harm. If I sprain my wrist, that's not necessarily physical, you know, serious physical harm. So sometimes, even at the scene at that time, it may not be clear that the injuries are where that level is. But felonious assault clearly would be serious physical harm, you know, where you need medical attention, or whatever may have occurred may not have happened to you, but if it did, it would require. So, like, for example, if somebody shot at somebody and missed, that's felonious assault. You know, if somebody, you know, tried to swing and hit a baseball bat at you, but did not hit you, you know what I'm saying? Again, that could be deemed a felonious assault, because those are things that could really cause serious physical harm to a person. So other things as far as
so what it will be assault, not with the felonious.
Assault is basically injuries that are not substantial. They're not something that's going to cause you know, medical assistance. You know, so for example, if you had a bruise on your arm, and again, bruises can be different though. So, like, if it's like a little bruise or something like that, then not so much. I mean, if it's a big bruise where you're seeing the injury and maybe some blood underlying and stuff like that, then that could be felonious assault. Like I said, it varies, but most of it has to do with whether you're required to have some type of real medical attention and assistance with that. Like, not just like somebody shows up and says, "Hey, well, here's a Band-Aid." Or like, "Oh yeah, no, we need to get you to a hospital. You need treatment." You know, these are severe injuries that are going to need or require medical assistance.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. And robbery. Also, we have aggravated robbery.
Yes.
Robbery and theft.
Yes. So aggravated robbery is well, first of all, robbery is any time where somebody uses any type of force. Sometimes coercion can fall into that, where they take property from you without allowance, without the victim allowing that to occur. Aggravated robbery is when a weapon is involved in doing that. And and again, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person is going to be injured. If I pull a gun and I point a gun at somebody and say, "Give me your money," and I take the money and I run, the victim's not injured. You know, not physically. You know, and so it's important to understand that it's not necessary for this visa to work because you have to have some type of injury. You know, like the gentleman I talked about before that was robbed of his $400, he was beat up. You know, he had some marks and some scuffs and stuff like that. So you could see that clearly he was beat on and hit, but he didn't have serious physical harm to where he had to go to the hospital, but he was robbed because they physically assaulted him, and then in the commission of that took money from him. They robbed him of his money. So the difference between aggravated robbery and robbery is the use of a weapon or a deadly ordinance towards somebody that could cause death or real serious physical harm. Robbery is the physical taking of it, whether hitting, striking, holding down, or whatever, and taking the money without that danger of that level. Okay. So theft is basically taking the stuff without those things. You know, again, without the allowance and stuff like that. So, like, if your phone's right there and I take your phone and run, you didn't allow me to take it, that's theft.
Yeah, perfect.
So hopefully that...
Thank you for the distinction, because aggravated robbery and robbery, they are similar crimes that they are not listed in the specific crimes, although immigration tends to approve them.
Yes.
Independence of the state code, but I have not had a case where aggravated robbery has not been a similar crime and they make it similar to felonious assault, for example, that there was an attempt to a physical harm to the victim, right?
Yes. Well, so it's important to understand with the laws too that the government has made a generalization of these
Correct.
laws. Okay, so every state has different laws that cover the same things, but in our case, for example, like some of these laws here, we don't have specific wording for them, but they fall under these crimes. And so, you know, you might have a state call it something else, you know, but it still qualifies and falls under this because it's a generalization. Like, there's no way, I mean, we have 50 states. There's no way that these categories are just going to cover everything in the 50 states when it comes to these qualifying crimes.
Right.
So there's a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of gray area, but there's enough gray area for them to understand, like a felonious assault or a robbery, you know, especially an aggravated robbery, will fall under a certain amount of categories in here for it to qualify.
Yes, perfect. And domestic violence, you know, sadly, we haven't, you know, we have it so much in our community.
Yes.
So you want to talk about briefly about domestic violence, what could it entail, more so that everybody understands like it's domestic violence by hitting, punching, the physical contact, the violent physical contact within the family member. But also, I know that domestic violence can entail threats or coercion. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so there's different levels of domestic violence, and like you really just said, anything physical, harmful, physical harm to somebody, and it doesn't have to be, though, it could be the attempt, you know, so we got to remember that as well. Clearly, those will qualify, you know, for U visas. When it comes to the threat and the immediacy of the threat, you know, it's not necessarily just the threat. It's got to be, you know, if I tell you I'm going to run you over with a car, but clearly we're not in a car when we're sitting right here, that's not an immediate threat to you because you're not going to be worried about me bringing a car up to the third floor, you know. So it has to be something where it's an immediate threat of harm, you know, to somebody in order for that to be believable. Fear of that, and then again, you need the relation for that, whether it be husband and wife or child in common, or it could be siblings. It doesn't have to be, you know, I know most people think domestic violence as far as like, you know, spouse and things of that nature, but it also could be, you know, immediate family members, you know, like brothers and sisters and things like that.
Yes, that is very important because normally we think about domestic violence, it is between, you know, mostly it is husband and a wife. But it can be wife and a husband, or it could be between siblings, other family members as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And also you can receive a protective order. And domestic violence, it is a different, I think that a different type of phenomenon. Many situations happen within domestic violence.
Absolutely.
Just because the perpetrator, it is a known, and there is a connection, there is a bond between the perpetrator and the victim. So there is so many other things to be said about domestic violence.
Yes.
And that doesn't happen once, it happens many times normally.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it depends on the situation. It depends on when, you know, it's addressed. You know, again, it's generalization here, but, you know, usually there's lead ups to where these offenses occur. It doesn't just happen spontaneously, even though there are times that it does. There are lead ups to this, and being able to get help and assistance and things like that before those occur, you know, is phenomenal because there's a number of services out here, you know, throughout the city that help families, you know, even with anger management counseling, family counseling, things of that nature that help that. But, you know, once those occur, it's important to report those because most people think that domestic violence always ends in an arrest and somebody going to jail and things like that, but that's not necessarily true. You can get assistance for the perpetrator. You can get anger management and family counseling and stuff like that assigned through the courts to be able to assist in the situation. You know, because most of the time, I mean, you're talking about a family situation where there's still going to be family. There's still going to be a connection, whether it be kids, whether it be, if they're siblings or whatever. So there's going to be assistance needed to be able to bridge the gap between what caused this and the reasoning behind that. And again, a number of these services are out here. I mean, and can be court ordered. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean that, because you report this person that they're going to automatically go to jail, that they can literally get some help, treatment, counseling, whatever the case may be. And these judges will order those things for them.
Yes. Domestic violence right now made me think about witness intimidation.
Yes, and that's qualifying too. Absolutely.
You want to talk about it? What is witness intimidation?
So again, and it's a good topic to bring up because a lot of our people in the community witness a lot of crimes, and when those occur, again, it's important that if they're threatened to testify or share information, that this is something that definitely can be brought up. You can have protections for this. You don't have to worry about what we're doing because we need that information to, again, enforce the law, solve the crime, if you will, things of that nature. That's why I kind of say, as far as reporting, that there's not one way to have to report it. Yeah. Because a lot of people, especially on our more dangerous crime scenes and things like that, they will want to wait or come to the district or maybe after the canvas, a couple days later when investigators come back, be able to share information. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that because we'd rather have the information however we can get it than to not have it at all and not be able to solve the crime. Okay. And in these cases, if you have that type of information, we want it. There's protections for you. So you don't have to worry about, who's going to do what to you or what law enforcement may do to you because you come forward to assist us. And again, this is why this document and this this visa was made. It's made literally to assist all the people because even as a witness, you're still involved, to protect when these things occur and to assist us in solving this to help our communities.
Yes. And with this intimidation, I have seen with my clients, mostly in the domestic violence, area, because everything is very tied in. So the family of the perpetrator, once it's arrested, if it's arrested, is trying to convince the victim to stop cooperating or threatening of the cooperation. If she continues to cooperate, if it's a woman, I'm gonna do something to you, or you're not gonna see the kids, or something to that effect.
No, I mean interrupt. So that's why the temporary protection order is in place during the court case, so that the immediate victim has those protections, and that the suspect or perpetrator cannot make those contacts and cannot send those threats through. And even with our court system now, which is a true blessing.
But also extended to family members.
Correct. That's where that's where I was going. So they actually send out the information via text in people's languages, so they understand that protection orders are in place. And that would cover children and things like that may be involved that are listed on the protection order. What the key thing here is that, let's say this happened with a family member that's outside the immediate family. So let's say this was like the brother of the spouse that witnessed this, or maybe the mom of the spouse that witnessed this, or something like that. This is where you get the intimidation and things like that, because typically when you're thinking about domestic violence, people start to think, well, it's her word against his and things of that nature. But if you have a witness outside of that, this is where that protection would be in place. That, hey, I saw this, but I'm fearful because if he does this to her, what's he going to do to me, type thing. And this is where the protection is in place, not only as far as dealing with us, but to be able to assist you in being able to give us this information to, again, get the conviction, get justice for our victim. That's where those things come into place. Yeah, excellent.
So let's talk about stalking. Stalking can be presented also in school settings, which sometimes I have it, like bullying.
Sure.
So do you want to talk about it? Generally, stalking.
Sure. So you have two types of stalking here in the state of Ohio. You have one where it's just maybe like a single situation, and then you have one where it's like menacing by stalking, where it's multiple times over a period of time. And so again, in order to be able to solve that, things like that, got to report it, and then we have to be able to have some type of information about how often it's occurred, when it's occurred, so then we can follow up with our investigation as far as where, when, sometimes why is important, but not necessarily for the case. Like if there's some underlying situation that's bringing this together where, a person could have mental issues, or there might be some other connection that we don't know about, who knows. But the why is not as important as those other two. But again, there's also protections for all of those. Not just, again, for the visa, but if it's having to help with relocation, if it's having to help with like immediate emergency services, we have victims advocates agencies and things like that that will assist, in those things to help protect the victim. But again, also it could be a witness, and you brought that up before. If I'm witnessing somebody stalking somebody else, and I know that this person is dangerous, and then they come at me or they're starting to threaten me, I'm a vital piece to this case, because I'm literally seeing this, and I'm able to report this and substantiate what the victim is claiming. And so again, it's important to understand that there's things in place to be able to assist with those things and investigate the case, whether it be, like, again, it could be a one-time thing, or it could be something where it's over a period of time, and being able to prove that, show that, and put it together in a case for the victim. Again, the U visa gives you a protection for that, because that's a crime that qualifies.
Excellent. So what would you recommend for parents, I was talking about bullying,
Sure.
to do if they think that the kids are experimenting bullying, which is a type of stalk?
Yeah, so first and foremost, most people label bullying in like this big giant bubble, and bullying is not that. Bullying is literally specifically to each instance. And the first and most important thing to understand is that when a kid or is going through bullying, that we need to take that instance for that instance, because bullying is not a blanket. You can't just cover everything. So for example, bullying could be over social media. Bullying could be personal, in your face. Bullying could be notes passed, even though notes are kind of old age type stuff.
Text. But what about text?
Text, right. But I'm just saying, it could be any of those. You know what I'm saying? And so it's important to take each case by case basis and figure out exactly what's happening and what's affecting our victim. Because there's some things that some kids just don't get and they go right over their head. And there's some things that they're really, really affected by and traumatized by. And by, again, dealing with that kid in that situation, finding out, putting everything on the table about what's affecting and what's going on with them, and really digging deep as far as what is occurring. That's where the number one thing as far as starting the assistance, starting to help for that. So as a parent, definitely you want to get other people involved once you get that information and understand what exactly is happening. And then, again, I'm not necessarily caring about the why, but it's just the what and the when.
Okay.
So again, that way we can address it, whether it's low-level stuff that doesn't have to fit to a crime, to high-level stuff that needs to be stopped and addressed right away.
Yeah. So I guess what I was trying to go, it is come to the police. If that is happening, come to the police.
Yes.
Sometimes the parents feel that they had to stay in school. And I see that, you can report it to the administration, but also if they are true, it will be better to come to you guys and for you to make the determination whether or not it is a crime.
Yeah, so the fortunate thing that we have, and I can speak about Hamilton County because I used to be a school resource officer, is that you have police officers in the schools. And so they have unique relationships that maybe regular patrol officers would not have. And so, yes, you could definitely bring it to the school, but also know that you have the resource of a police officer in your school. And it's important because they're a vital team member to the school. So in this case, as a parent, you can absolutely take it to school, but also absolutely ask and request that the school resource officer be involved, so that everybody's full circle about what our situation is and what are the best directions to be able to handle it. Being a school resource officer, I found it vital to be able to know the kids, have great relationships with them, being able to know how the school structure is, to be able to minimize and stop a lot of things before they ever started.
I think that, well, we have to talk about more what is a school resource officer, because we don't have that in Latin America, right?
Okay, sure.
So we don't even know that it exists in the schools.
Yeah, so a school resource officer is a police officer. Okay, so they
That works for the
so
local-
they work for the police department,
Mhm.
but they are intertwined with the schools. So that's kind of like I do the immigration. You know what I'm saying? I have relationships with a lot of immigrants and refugees throughout the city of Cincinnati. Well, school resource officer is assigned to those specific schools to have that type of relationship with them, and not just with the administration, but in the school with the kids, understanding their day-to-day operations, how they operate, and really getting to know the people around them, and the kids get to know us as well. And like I said, you can't put a price on the fact that, when I would go into a school, and if there was a situation that was about to brew, they would come to me and say, Officer Johnson, this is about to go down, and we don't want this to happen. And it would stop immediately, because guess what? They're all coming to me to tell me what's going on, and it's before all these things happen. Or if there's something happening, these kids are comfortable coming because the relationship is built. So it's not like you're going up to a stranger saying, hey, I don't know you, officer, but I need some help. No, you know this officer because the officer's at your basketball games, at your football games, at your dances. They're at your events inside the school. They're at your lunch when you're going to lunch. I mean, you can't put a price on those type of relationships, and they're important, in your school. So, and again, there's a number of, as a school resource officer, not only do I know the school resource officers that are in our police department, but I know a lot of them that are in Hamilton County and in Butler County, and they're fantastic. I mean, they really are involved with
kids.
kids.
To them?
Oh, absolutely. They're considered administrators of the school. So you can go to your school, and if you don't know your school resource officer, I highly recommend that you go up there just to meet your school resource officer. 'Cause, I mean, your kids will probably already have, and so, like I said, it's an amazing relationship. It's an amazing dynamic for kids, because it gives you a hands-on experience and perspective of dealing with a police officer, because we're human. I mean, I know it's funny, but most people look at us as a uniform, and we're driving around in a police car, and all we do is write tickets. All we do is lock people up, and that is so far from the truth. And these kids get to see us laugh, joke, play with them, even eat lunch with them. I mean, stuff that
you guys eat.
Oh, absolutely, right. But that's what I'm saying. You can't put a price on that type of experience.
Yeah.
Because then people know that we're just out here like everybody else. We're living life like everybody else.
Yeah, and that's that. I don't know how much time, and I don't know if we have any comments.
No comments. So
Okay, no comments. Okay. So I think that's where we are here to actually, for the community to understand that you are here to serve.
Yes.
And aside from what they see in the movies,
Mm-hmm.
or what they have heard,
Mm-hmm.
because in my 10+ years of experience, I have not seen, and dealing with U visas and victims of crime, I have not seen that a victim has been arrested in the report of a crime.
Yeah.
Because that's what they think. I don't report it because I'm going to get arrested and I'm going to get in trouble.
Correct.
And I have not seen that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I cannot say that that's not happening, but I have not seen it, which is a lot,
Yeah.
And I'm super proud to live in Cincinnati, being a Cincinnatian, and, and the surrounding communities either.
Yes. Yeah. No, but again, we're fortunate. Our area, not just our police department, but our area has,
Yes.
I mean, it has a good amount of policing that's actually for people, by people, and we work collaboratively together. I mean, again, as a school resource officer, we've worked together with school resource officers from Butler, from Warren County, not just Hamilton County. I mean, even with, Kentucky. And that's just, a little bit in my career. When I was on the Heroin Task Force, I was working with a lot of officers from all over Southwest Ohio. So you have a lot of really good police departments and a lot of really good officers here that are about serving our communities, and we take pride in that.
Yeah. I have to say that most of my friends now, and you included, are from the police departments, and they're very, very, very good people, and people that wants to serve, wanted to provide the best for the community, and they are not only arrested, they are not interested in only arresting and writing tickets. They actually do not want to do that. So I guess that for the last minutes, we can briefly talk about T-Visa because we want to dive into T-Visa next month probably.
Oh yeah.
But so we wanted to talk about what is a T-Visa, right?
So a T-Visa, in short, is any victim that is a victim of trafficking. Where and most people, when you say trafficking, they think sex trafficking and they go straight to that. But labor trafficking is far worse.
But that also is confused with smuggling.
Well, smuggling too. But there definitely, and again, the next time we definitely will delve into this a lot heavier. But there's definitely, a vast underreporting of trafficking that is going on, not just here locally, but throughout our country. I want to say, I think the total that they would give for TVs is like 5,000. It never even comes anywhere close to that. But we know that we have victims out here that are going through this every day. And again, it's hard because victims don't really know that they're being trafficked. If I have you doing a job that would pay somebody $50 an hour and I'm only paying you $5 an hour and I'm not giving you any benefits or no, you're being trafficked, but you don't know because you're happy with the $5. Those type of things are occurring every day.
And generally it is also coupled with coercion or force or fraud.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And those things come into play too. But like I said, the issue is that most of your trafficking is about them giving them just enough to feel like they're not trafficked, but have all those things implemented over them at this time. An idea or example would be, somebody or a group of people working for apartment complexes, and they tell them, hey, you can live here. And we'll pay you, but then don't end up paying them and then end up evicting them and mistreating them. But you got all these services, you dangled living over them, you know what I'm saying? And then when you were done with them, you took the living away from them, and you've never paid them, And again, you could argue about whether it's civil or whether it's, criminal or what the issue is. But when you're putting them in housing to give them some type of safety, and then you're threatening to take it away because you're not getting that safety, and then you don't get the service and you kick them out, what are we talking about? And you're talking about groups of people that are being misused like this.
Yeah. Or also where they are being recruited outside of the United States. They are brought in here. They're said that they're going to be paid X amount of money, but they could come here. They come to a surprise that they are not going to be paid $10 per hour. In fact, they are going to be paid by filling the bucket of oranges or blueberries, right?
Yes.
So, and they were supposed to be paid for housing and food and providing all these other amenities, and they're not, right?
Correct.
So there is many characteristics of trafficking, and they look very, very different. And also you can help with that. And trafficking, I think that lately has come up more in the sense of they are not paying me a fair price.
Sure.
So it is. I want to make that difference because it's just a little bit more than that. Not paying your fair price. It is coupled with other elements that you feel coerced, forced.
That's why I'm saying the sell of it, because people don't know that they're being trafficked, is the fact that they're getting something. You know what I'm saying? And because they're getting something, they go, okay, I'm not being trafficked because I'm getting some money, or I'm getting some housing,
which
or I'm
is
getting some
a little bit more what I used to get or I could get back home.
That is correct. Absolutely correct. Again, like I said, everybody usually thinks of the sex trafficking and things like that, but the labor trafficking is far more.
Yes.
And again, definitely underreported.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. We will see you next month about T-Visas, and thank you very much for having us.